And I think in all of life, we really have to understand where we are today and where it is we really want to go. That's why you'll always hear us talk about your financial journey. Understand where you are and where you want to go. You really do have to begin with that end in mind, if you will. So I'm reading this textbook, and it's my job to bring all of the elements of financial planning together for these students to be able to teach them what's going to matter most in their life, how they're going to impact you and others as well as themselves, what their career is going to be like. And that's a heavy burden. And I was anxious, I was a little scared, but I was also very, very excited. But as I looked at this textbook, there were mistakes that were in the book. And it's no difference than what I have said to you in the introduction to this, that there wasn't one semester where I didn't have to correct myself. Not because I was wrong, but because things changed. And that really is one of the big challenges in the financial world, is when you write something or you record something, it's out there for the world to see, right? But the problem is, as things change, you need to have something, a mechanism, a monitor that goes, hey, hello, something has changed in the world today, so that we can bring back and get caught up to speed with how this really applies. I used to tell people, and I'm not that big of a supporter of Google anymore, and that's a whole nother story, but I used to tell people that Google was data sensitive, not date sensitive. Right? Data sensitive, meaning the number of articles and materials that were written about a particular conversation will show up more than the most recent piece. And that's really important when you go to do research. It's very easy to read something that's 2 or 3 years old. Well, when a professor starts to write a textbook, many times these books have been in the works for 2 or 3 years, and that textbook had problems in it. It had challenges in it. It also had some very flat out mistakes. We'll leave those alone for now. But I got rid of the program, and I asked Purdue if I could create my own curriculum. Purdue said, if the CFP board says okay, have at it. CFP board said, if Purdue says okay, have at it. I got him, right? So I created my own curriculum, and then we trademarked it. I am an entrepreneur, guys. I run a business, right? I trademarked a process, and it's a process that I think you ought to follow. Now, I hadn't heard this quotation yet, but it really is the essence of what I tried to create. It comes from an author named James Clear. James wrote a book called Atomic Habits a few years ago. He worked with a guy named B.J. Foggs, who happens to be a friend of mine, another great book, Tiny Habits, and along with Ben Hardy, who wrote Willpower Doesn't Work and The Gap and the Gain and a few other books, again, another friend of mine. But James wrote this quotation in his book that just really sums up our trademark process, the family focus process. And essentially what he said is success is never dependent upon one thing, but failure can be.